We were in Atra in 2000. We were in Duhok, stayed in a hotel. There was a door between our rooms. We each had our own room. But every morning he'd wake me up. He'd call my room, and I'd pick it up, and he would be singing Rosh Chwanka.
I've often asked my guests who their role models are. Almost always they seem to mention their parents, and it makes sense. Their parents have been through thick and thin. They've made dire sacrifices. And once we've made it to adulthood, we look back and are amazed at how they held their composure as parents. The term role model was coined by Robert K. Merton, who was an American sociologist spending most of his career teaching at Columbia University. He is considered a founding father of modern sociology, referencing individuals who compare themselves with those who occupy a social role they aspire to. The term role model grew from his theory of the reference group, the group to which individuals compare themselves but to which they do not necessarily belong to. By the mid-1990s, the term entered our lexicon. Aside from my parents being my role models, Ashur has been a role model of mine since my teenage years. His professionalism and love for his nation is something that I always aspire for. Ashur Yoseph joined the Assyrian Aid Society of America in 1993 as the project manager for the Lifeline Pledge Program, which continues to this day, having raised over $2 million. He became the second vice president of the Assyrian Aid Society of America, succeeding founder Dr. Lincoln Malik and teaming with newly installed president Narsai David. In 2011, with the retirement of Narsai David, Ashur was elected as the Assyrian Aid Society of America president. During his tenure, the Assyrian Aid Society of America has weathered some of its most demanding challenges, such as the rise of ISIS and the fall of Mosul, but has also seen its most successful fundraising years. Administratively, Ashur has given special focus on bringing younger professionals into leadership positions and mentoring them closely over the years to build a strong foundation for the next generation of leaders of the Assyrian Aid Society of America. Ashur currently serves as a Senior Vice President for Infrastructure and Business Development with WSP USA. In 2000, Ashur was appointed by then San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown as the lead infrastructure project manager for the multi-billion-dollar Mission Bay development. In 2004, he was appointed by then San Francisco Mayor and current California Governor Gavin Newsom as the lead infrastructure project manager for the multi-billion-dollar development of the Hunters Point Shipyard Phase 1. And in 2006, Ashur was appointed by the late San Francisco Mayor Edwin Lee as the Infrastructure Development Program Manager for all the major developments in San Francisco. Ashur is married to his college sweetheart and resides in Concord, California. They have 2 adult children, George and Christina. I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe to this podcast, rate and review us wherever you listen to the podcasts. Also, if you know someone who should be on the podcast, please reach out to us. You can find more information about nominating future guests on our website. For our listeners from the United States, here's a quick word about the 2020 census. Every 10 years, the United States completes a census nationwide to essentially get a count of everyone who lives in the country. These counts are important because they give the government a sense of the demographic makeup of the nation. Various organizations have unified in an effort to ensure that every Assyrian in the United States is counted in the 2020 census. Here's how you can make sure you are counted as an Assyrian. Under the race section, check Other and write out Assyrian in the space provided. For more information regarding the 2020 census, please go to www.2020census.gov. Lastly, the Assyrian podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalogorakis and the injury lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that has been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogorakis. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or 847-982-9516. And now let's hear more about Ashur Yoseph. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Assyrian podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Good afternoon, Peter. I'm glad that you're hosting me and having me here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to schedule this for quite some time, but we finally made some time. So tell us in one sentence, give me, who is Ashur Yoseph?
Trick question. Let's see. Well, who is Ashur Yoseph? Ashur Yoseph is an Assyrian, a father, a husband, a son. That's who Ashur is.
Yeah. Ashur, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Kirkuk in Iraq, 1957. We moved to Baghdad in, I believe it was 1961, and lived there until we decided to leave Iraq. We left Iraq in 1974 to Beirut, Lebanon. We lived in Beirut for a little over a year, and then in 1975 we came to the United States, to San Francisco, where I had two uncles that were here.
Yeah.
To Khaluwati Dakhiwa. So we came to San Francisco in 1975. Been in the Bay Area ever since.
So for those listeners who are outside of the United States, the Bay Area is what we refer to as the San Francisco.
Yes, absolutely. The San Francisco area and surrounding areas.
So take us back to Kirkuk, take us back to Baghdad. How was life like growing up in the 60s in Iraq?
Well, I was obviously young. I was born in '57. So when we moved to Baghdad, actually, I was obviously very young, and we moved to a city. Our first house was in Al-Bataween district of Baghdad. Our neighbors across the street, oddly enough, were the Shabas family. Sargon Shabas, who, oddly enough, he and I worked together for the Assyrian aid.
Yeah.
So they were our neighbors, and the family of Ashur Yoseph were neighbors as well.
Wow.
Yes. So we moved there, but I did spend pretty much every summer with my grandparents in Kirkuk. They lived in Arafah. So we would go, my sister and I, for the summer, and I had some great memories of spending my summers in Kirkuk.
Yeah.
And had a happy childhood. It was until my father was arrested and thrown in jail, and like many thousands upon thousands of people, accused of misdeeds that really were not, political.
What year did he get arrested?
This was, I want to say, it was 74, before we left. After he was tortured, thrown in jail, we came home one day, and doorbell rang, opened the door, and there was my father standing there, beard and long beard and bloody shirt, and from being tortured. After that, once he got a little bit better, then it was time for us to leave, and we went to Lebanon, Beirut, and then, like I said, in '75 we made our way here.
What was the reasoning behind his arrest and his torture?
Part of his job, my father worked for a company, a consulting company, Iraqi consulting company that was working with a West German company, an Italian company, building a paper production factory just north of Basra, Ma'mal al-Wara. And part of his job was to deal with these foreign companies and every so often travel to Europe, part of his business. And he was accused of spying and things of that sort that really had nothing to do with what he was doing.
Okay.
And they apparently let him go, said somebody misinformed us on you and gave us the wrong information, and sorry, you're free, go.
Do you think he was also high profile, perhaps because he was an Assyrian?
You know what? I don't know that. Perhaps. After that, it was, like I said, it was time for us to leave, and we left like many Assyrian families.
Mm-hmm. What were some of your favorite memories, growing up in Iraq?
Well, again, some of my fondest memories were when I was young, going to spend summers in Kirkuk at my grandparents. Growing up in Baghdad, we went to schools. We went to one school where my sister and I were the only Christian Assyrian students in the whole school. But we really never felt that we were out of place. We're just like all the other kids. So there wasn't, what you see these days happen in Iraq. We didn't personally, as a child, I didn't, I played soccer and we lived in the Sadoun district, played soccer with my buddies. We had Armenian, Assyrian, we had Sunni, Shia. We didn't ask that. We were just kids playing together.
So it wasn't as sectarian as it is now? Not
at all. My parents, we had one, in our neighborhood, we had a family, a very rich family, contractor. The father, the patriarch of the family, they were Shia. My parents would sit with the family and have dinner. The man had 4 wives, and half the kids in the neighborhood were his. But my parents would sit with the whole family, for dinner with them like they were part of their family. No, there wasn't any of what you see now. No, it's unfortunate what's going on.
What is life like for you and the family in Lebanon en route to the United States?
We lived in Sadd al-Boshri, High Syrian, in the Assyrian sector. Got to know a lot of people. Some of them are here, from Lebanon, that are here in Tarak, Modesto area. We've remained friends. We were one of the earliest families that came there. And after that, there was an influx of Assyrian families that left Iraq and came into Beirut. But we were one of the earliest family there. But we really, I was young, so I didn't have the responsibility that my parents had. So I had a good time. I enjoyed my time in Beirut. I love the neighborhood. I love the people that I got to know.
How many years did you spend there?
Just over a year.
And then so you come to San Francisco.
We come to San Francisco. I barely speak any English. 1975, thrown in high school.
In San Francisco?
In San Francisco, at Lincoln High School in San Francisco. One of my early experiences, we had PE, physical education class, and I understood that we were going to play football that day. And so I was all excited, football, we're going to play soccer. So I walk out on the field and I see these really strange looking oblong shaped things flying around, guys throwing them to each other and catching them. And I realized that was football, but it's not the football I know.
American football.
So I have no idea what American football is. So they say, okay, they split up teams, and this is touch football. I don't know what that is. Split up teams. I'm small. I'm fast. The quarterback, I understood. He said, run 7, 8 yards, 10 yards, turn around, I'll throw you the ball. I understood that much. So it was hot. And I take off running and turned around. The guy throws me the ball. I caught the ball. He didn't tell me what to do with the ball once I caught it. I had no idea what to do with the ball. I see these guys coming at me, running at me. So I pick up the ball and throw it back to the quarterback. Suffice it to say, I learned a few swear words that day. That was really the day I came back home and I thought, okay, I got to learn this game. And I fell in love with American football. And as you can see from my hat, I'm a diehard 49ers fan. So,
living in San Francisco at the time, I believe at that time there was maybe a small community, Assyrian community here. There was also a Modern State church. So how is it like growing up as an Assyrian in San Francisco during that time?
We lived in the Sunset District, and that's where Umrat Modern is. Pretty much the Assyrian community, as small as it was, lived in that neighborhood. Assyrians, we congregate in the same place. And the church was within walking distance from our house, and got to know some Assyrians. And I actually, when I was in high school, I worked in a gas station in those days. We pumped gas, we washed windows, and gave you free maps and things of that sort. And I worked for Nona, since he's passed away, Nona's Texico. And that was a place, actually, a gathering place for Assyrians would come and just shoot the
Yeah,
breeze.
like a
Basically,
public
it
hangout,
was. They would bring their cars for service, but it was a place where everybody kind of met. So
Wow.
I got to meet a lot of Assyrians, and like I said, Nona moved to Turlock after that, and right now I think he's since passed on a few years ago, and his brother Sargon Nona has a shop in Turlock.
Wow.
It was interesting. We had a small community, but I think that time we were a pretty
Yeah.
close-knit community.
So the gas station and church served as the social.
Pretty much so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they were. And went to school. In high school, we had a few Assyrian students. Again, because we all lived in the same neighborhood, we went to the neighborhood high school.
Yeah.
So, we went to school together. It was fun. The first years of my life in the United States in San Francisco, they were just learning so much. They were exciting because it was a new culture for me. And I really wanted to embrace the culture and learn. Things were coming at me from all different angles, and I just enjoyed it. It was very enjoyable.
Life takes you from your biography, life takes you to Sacramento to study engineering?
Yeah, so I applied to a bunch of schools, and I got accepted. I did not want to go far away from home.
Yeah.
For me, I went on interviews with different schools, and Sacramento State seemed to be the best fit for me at that time. And I went there. I was studying mechanical engineering. Actually, my last year, I met this co-ed. That was 38 years ago, and we're still together.
Yeah.
So Stephanie and I will be celebrating our 35th wedding anniversary actually coming up in June. Not only did I get a degree, but I met my life partner.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made you get into mechanical engineering?
I took an exam, one of these exams they give in college. I really wanted to study like political science, coming from the Middle East, and I thought that was the one thing I wanted to study. And then I took one of these high school exams, and I scored high in math and science. And I was told that I should think about studying engineering, and I picked mechanical engineering. As silly as it may sound, once I got into it, I wanted to graduate and design toys. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to design toys. Thank God I didn't do that, because with all the electronics, I would be probably broke and starving right now. But that's what I got into it, and life takes you in directions that you don't really realize.
During attending Sacramento State, graduating, are you involved in any sort of civic Assyrian organizations or clubs?
No, I was not. Let me tell you when I became active in Assyrian causes. It was well after I got married. And then after the first Gulf War in 1991, when we all saw on television when Saddam's troops invaded the north and pushed all the population, which was including Assyrian communities, villages, pushed them out into southern Turkey, and we were watching people in the snowy mountains covering themselves with cardboard boxes, and if you were lucky, you had a tarp over your head.
Yeah.
Helicopters pushing food out of the door, and people fighting for food on the ground. As they're dropping it, those were heart-wrenching, and I realized not only this is terrible for humanity in general, but there are Assyrians in there too. So I really started exploring. I tried to reach out to multiple Assyrian organizations saying, hey, I want to help. What are we doing for our people in Gerbia? And I was astounded at what I heard. There were so many excuses that were made why we haven't been able, as an organization, if I was talking to an organization, why they were not able to help financially because of all these other restraints. And I was totally disappointed, heartbroken. And then my father told me, he said, hey, there's this new group called Assyrian Aid, Sitot Odrana. It was just established, if you want to talk to them. And I said, well, who do I talk to? He said, talk to Alamunachet Rabbi Yuel Baba. I contacted Rabbi Yuel Baba. We talked a little bit. Rabbi Yuel Baba had just stepped aside from the organization. Narsai David had taken over for him. So Rabiul gave me the phone number to Dr. Lincoln Malik, and I called Dr. Lincoln Malik, and he and I met, and he brought me on board. It was Dr. Malik that brought me on board. My first project was I was brought on board as special projects coordinator, and my first project was, and that was with the help of Dr. Lincoln Malik. It was his idea, actually. Sargina, Tamimi, and I worked on it to implement it, and it was the Lifeline Pledge, and which is the monthly credit card donations, monthly donations. And that program has raised over $2 million over its life now. That might not sound like a lot of money, but when there was a need, and that money, when it's needed, it's very important, even as small as it is. That's how my really first exposure to working on Assyrian causes was with the Assyrian Aid. I joined actually next month it'll be 27 years. So 27 years ago, it's been a wonderful experience. To tell you the truth, I didn't think that I'd be with the Assyrian Aid for so long, because we thought things will get better 5-6 years. And then we would look back at the Assyrian Aid and say, okay, do we still need the Assyrian Aid? Maybe we fulfilled our mission and our people are settled now and everything is okay. Either tweak our mission or maybe just disband the organization since we don't need it anymore. And again, for me, unfortunately, 26 years later, we're still here and the need is great. And it's a sad statement about what's happening to our people in Atra.
You mentioned mission. What is the mission of the Assyrian Aid Society?
It's very simple. It's to help our people in the homeland and in the Middle East. It's as simple as that. We, unlike other organizations, we don't look at you. Our mission is to help you as an Assyrian. We don't ask what church you belong to, what Shota tribe you belong to. We don't ask if your religious background. That's not an issue for us. Our main focus is to help Assyrians in need. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What was it that drew you? Was it the cause? Was it the individuals that were involved in the cause? Was it family who...
More, you mentioned some of them, actually. One of the things when I met with Dr. Lincoln Malik, I was struck by his passion. I mean, he was absolutely passionate about this cause.
And Lincoln was a guest of the Assyrian podcast
I listened to that.
ago.
I listened to that podcast, one of my favorite, actually, yes. And Lincoln is a brilliant human being. I have the utmost respect for him. But when I saw that passion that he had, and then the passion of the other people that he introduced me to, and these were people that were all volunteers, not one of them was getting paid, and they were serving a cause that nobody else was taking on. Another thing that was kind of unique, not to be condescending or anything, but there was this drive to attract Assyrian intelligentsia. Let's bring these people that are on the outside, on the outskirts, that don't want to have anything to do with today's organizations because they're tired of hearing the same thing. And let's bring them. Let's try to reach out. And that's his vision of that was one of the things that really attracted me as well, aside from the core value of what the organization is trying to do. This totally humanitarian mission.
Yeah. In June of 2019, you announced that you were stepping down from your role as president of the Assyrian Aid Society of America.
Yeah.
Why the decision now?
I think one of the things that when Narsai stepped aside and I took over.
Narsai David?
Narsai David, I'm sorry. When he took over, I took over from Narsai David. Now, off the topic, taking over from a legend, it's not an easy thing. I mean, I thought about it long and hard. I was like, okay, so this is Narsai David. And for me to be able to fill his shoes, that was a task I wasn't going to be able to do. I mean, the man is larger than life. So at that time, I stepped back and decided, what do I want to do in my time while I'm there at the helm? And the focus, one of my focus, I focused on bringing youth into the organization. But that was one of the things that I really wanted to do. And I believe right now we have a solid core of young professionals, not as many as I'd like to have on board, but definitely a good core. So I looked around and I saw that the organization, when you get into a place, the organization needs an injection of energy, new blood. And I thought that's a good time for me to step aside and bring in the youth, the young people. And we have Antoine Varani, Dr. Varani, who has graciously accepted to step into this position. You know him from Turlock. He's young, he's very energetic. Our Vice President, Renia Benjamin, we all know her. She's absolutely intelligent. We are also building on at the president level. We're trying to bring in the new people. Us, Khawaradekna, I think it's time for us to start stepping aside and have the young folks come in and take over. That doesn't mean we're stepping away. I'm still involved with the organization. I'm still on the board. And we're there to guide them, if you will, when they need guidance.
Mm-hmm. What I'd like to know personally, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would like to know, is aside from, this question might be twofold. So aside from direct humanitarian aid, the basic staples of life, what other projects does the Assyrian Aid Society take part in? And how is your relationship? Because there's both the Assyrian Aid Society of America and then there's the Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq. How does that relationship look like?
Let me answer the second question first.
Okay.
Assyrian Aid of Iraq is our sister organization. That is the organization that we do all our work and programs. We execute all our programs through them. They are the ones, our eyes and ears on the ground, and they're the ones that tell us what the need is. We're not the ones that call them and say, this is what you need. So we work with them very closely. We're in constant contact with them pretty much on a daily basis. That's our relationship with the Assyrian Aid of Iraq. What you brought, thank you for bringing that to my attention, actually. One of our biggest programs that we have been able to accomplish and sponsor and support from here and around the world is the Assyrian education. And I know you've been to Atra. I know you've been to our schools where we teach from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade in the Assyrian language. And to go there, a few years back, I took my father. I said, let's go. He had not been back. I was going back, and it was 2013. I said, let me take you for your 80th birthday as a present. When we went, he really became emotional going into those schools and seeing that. The schools and the kids learning in Assyrian. And I think Narsai, you've heard Narsai too, when we went, he and I in 2000, everywhere we went, he cried, and made everybody else cry. Just from the emotional, he was overwhelmed by what he was seeing, that all these young kids studying the whole curriculum in Assyrian. I mean, that's something that's not been done. And that really strengthened when Narsai was the president, because he's a champion of education, and we made that one of our core values that we will support come hell or high water. That's a program we're going to sponsor. So we've done that.
One point that perhaps you can shed some light on is you mentioned schools. And obviously these schools have a Ministry of Education that they answer to. Why does the Syrian Aid Society, as a humanitarian organization, have to fill that void?
If we don't fill that void, then our children will go to schools, public schools, which are Kurdish schools. So that's what they'll be studying. We want our children to study in Assyrian. We want our language. They could take maybe a class in Assyrian at a Kurdish school, but it's like taking French or Italian or Spanish. It's not the same. Our children study every subject in Assyrian. And they also study Kurdish, they study Arabic, and they study English. So you're walking into a school where children are speaking multiple languages, but their main curriculum is in our language, in Assyrian. And another thing we've done is we have buses that shuttle students from villages to the Assyrian schools. It's a really expensive proposition for us. We don't get much help from the Ministry of Education.
Why do you think that is?
You're really putting me in a position here, and I see the smile on your face. Unfortunately, and I'm going to try to be as politically correct as possible here. Unfortunately, the government, the regional government, the KRG, has really not helped us much. We're always we're always behind in payments. We have teachers and lecturers. If we have to send them to schools that are remote, then we have to pay for them. And that's if we don't pay for them, then those kids don't have teachers. So we do that. And we also, like I was saying, we shuttle students from villages to schools, because if we don't, then those children will end up going to local public schools, Kurdish schools, and they'd be studying in Kurdish instead of studying in Assyrian. That has been education, besides from the other projects that we have and the many needs that we continue to fulfill. Yeah. The education has been one of our core values that we've stayed with and been committed to.
Aside from that, it's mostly infrastructure, you would say?
Yes, a lot of infrastructure, mostly in villages, whether be it a water channel, Shaqit Mia, whether be it a need for irrigation somewhere else, or rebuilding a home here and a home there. Provided when Dishtat Nineveh was liberated from ISIS, Assyrian Aid was the first, and I think probably the only organization that was there that was providing. We brought in gasoline trucks, so that we can give the people that were there, the inhabitants, so that they can use it for cooking and things of that sort. We were one of the first organizations that was there that was giving people food, providing them with food and sustenance. We were one of the first organizations, if not the first. We were drilling shallow water wells, so that people, because there was no electricity, there was no power, and we were providing them with that. So we were pumping the water out and providing the inhabitants that were coming back and those that were in the area with water. So yeah, we do a lot of these things. The one thing we're really bad at is promoting the work that we do.
Why is that?
We look at it as our duty to do it. It's something that we have to do. We're busy doing it. We really don't take the time to say, okay, this is the stuff we've done. And Assyrian Aid of Iraq does a lot more too that they don't promote. And that's something we're weak at and we need to get better at. And I'm hoping with the new president coming in is much better suited than I am and others to maybe bring our profile, increase our profile, and the work the Assyrian Aid does. But again, the way we look at it, as we say in Assyrian, it's wajibut anila, so we plug along and do the work without trying to get any credit for it.
I'm glad you brought up the ISIS situation in Nineveh. Take us back to that time. Give me a day-to-day during those events of what you were having to go through, your correspondence and dialogue with the Assyrian Aid Society of Iraq and aid reaching that area.
Yes, I think since 1991, when this dislodgement of our people happened, this was the second biggest event since then. And
after Desert Storm, this was the second.
I think, in my opinion,
Sure.
because that was, our people were pushed out of their villages in 91 after Desert Storm, and here comes this menace that was, and unless you live under a rock, you know how bad they were. It was a difficult time for us. It was the most difficult time since 1991. We leaned on our community. Bless their heart, they came through. We really, during that period, I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, but thinking that year, it was 2014, I believe. I don't want to speak Sagan Shabbos will kill me, but I believe we raised about $2 million. But when we found out that the need was so great for our people, when people were pushed out of Dishtet Nineveh, and we needed to come to their aid, we turned to our community and communities, Assyrian communities throughout, and they came through, and we were very, very thankful. Unfortunately, we've not been successful with the multiple U.S. Administrations. I think right now we're getting a little bit more, but it really isn't what we, based on our history, based on our ability. It's really, they're throwing us a bone here or there. But we really, the U.S. government has not been very helpful. And I'm talking not this administration, not the one before, all the ones that I've been the last 26 years.
You bring up a great point. I mean, you're making this interview really easy for me. I want you, and this is as much as you're willing to share, talk about why you think either the Assyrian Aid Society is falling short or its administration's not meeting our needs. Why is it that we're falling short?
Why we're falling short? Assyrian Aid, based on our budget, based on we all are workers. I mean, I work.
You have a 9 to 5, yeah.
And Antoine Varani has the same thing, and everybody else. We have, as you know, we have one employee, administrator, Michael Bradley. We don't have the resources like other organizations to be in Washington, D.C., to lobby. We're competing with governments here, whether it be the KRG and others. There are other groups that have a lot more resources than we do. We have gone to Washington, D.C., we have knocked on doors, we have gone to these Christian organizations and churches and we've asked them. And they all promise, but nothing comes to us. Why? You know what? I just wish I knew. I mean, we have the track record. We can show them, our books are open. We can show them everything. And they can go back to Iraq, to the homeland. Check our work. We're there. We just walk and see, talk to people about Assyrian Aid. I believe there are others out there who have a lot more power than we do that don't want us to succeed as a people. Because if we do succeed, then our people will continue to come back and we will rebuild our infrastructure. And that's something that I think is not at a higher level, is not something that looked upon positively.
Who are friends of the Assyrian Aid Society, whether it's an NGO, nonprofit organizations, individuals, members of Congress?
Yeah, most of the NGOs that we work with and churches that we work with are Assyrian. We have the ICRC, Iraqi Christian Relief Council, under the leadership of our friend Juliana Taimurazi. She's very helpful. We have the AUA Foundation in Chicago that they have been extremely helpful in funding our educational programs. We're thankful. I just don't want to leave out people, but we have churches here locally. The Assyrian Evangelical Church has been a big supporter.
Of San Jose?
Of San Jose, I'm sorry, yes. And we have the Assyrian Evangelical Church in Chicago have been helpful. I don't want to leave anybody out, but most of our support comes from organizations that are Assyrian. We do get help here and there from outside organizations, but really nothing appreciable.
Yeah. Earlier in this interview, you mentioned Narsai David, who's a world-renowned chef. Prior to your term, served as president of the Assyrian Aid Society of America. But I want you to talk about how you met him.
I want to say it was 1987, 88. I was a junior mechanical engineer of the city of San Francisco. Our offices were the Bureau of Engineering, where so mechanical was in this part of the floor, and then we had civil, structural, and electrical. This guy comes in there with his plans and all that, and he wanted them approved because of the foundation for the statue. The structural engineer from the city had to look him over and approve them.
But you said statue. So he was bringing in plans for a statue?
For Ashur Yoseph statue in San Francisco, which I think all Assyrians around the world have seen a picture of.
Civic Center, yeah.
Yes. I knew of him because Narsai, as you all know, every time he's on the radio, pretty much he throws in the Assyrian in there. So I knew he was an Assyrian, and I introduced myself. I was a young engineer at that time. And we talked, and I don't think he remembered me later on when we met with the Assyrian Aid. But that's where I met him actually the first time, is in our office. He was trying to get some plans approved for the installation of the Ashur Yoseph statue. Yeah, right by our office, yes.
How is it like? How has it been like working with him? I would like to get him on the show, on the Assyrian podcast.
Oh, I think you need to.
And we're working on that. But I want you, from your perspective, how is it working with this man who, for years perhaps, was not necessarily in the Assyrian community, but then he takes this role of becoming president of the Assyrian Aid Society of America?
And again, it goes back to Dr. Lincoln Malik reaching out to people that were on the outs, if you will, of our community, and bringing them in, bringing somebody like Narsai David, with the caliber of Narsai David in the San Francisco Bay Area, to lead this organization, a fledgling organization, was a stroke of genius. Because Narsai opened a lot of doors for us locally here. It's been a pleasure working with Narsai. It's when he and I were in Atra in 2000. We were in Duhok, stayed in a hotel. There was a door between our rooms. We each had our room. But every morning he'd wake me up. He'd call my room, and I'd pick it up, and he would be singing Rujwanka. Every morning I pick up a phone and it's Narsai singing Rujwanka. The man absolutely loves his people. He cares about the Assyrians. It's been one of the best experiences in my life working with Narsai. It's been an honor actually working with him. He and I, when we went to Iraq, came back. It was interesting because, Narsai was born and raised here, but for a long time he didn't speak Assyrian. So his Assyrian wasn't, as well as ours. And in Iraq, when we were in Iraq, I would say something and he would correct me in Assyrian. La adkhali amri, la adkhala. I told him, I said, Nasha, it be a Shakespeare suraya laka. I was like, so when we came back, I told him, I said, you know what, Narsai, I don't want to talk to you or see you for the next 3 months. Okay, I've had it with you. But it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor working with him, and I'm so glad he's still associated with the organization. I just had breakfast with him on this past Friday. We sat and talked about Assyrian Aid and what's going on in our homeland. So he stays very involved.
What prompted that trip to go in 2000?
It was something that we needed to see. We wanted to see our programs. We wanted to see with our own eyes. We wanted Narsai, more than anything, to see what the Assyrian Aid is doing. And when we got there, actually, they were laying the foundation for the dormitories at that time.
And what purpose did the dormitories serve?
Well, the dormitories for many years served as dormitories, a place for our students who went to college or even some high schools, who lived in villages that did not have access, or if they needed to come to the city, they would have to live in homes and pay a lot of rent and what have you. So we actually provided them with shelter, and we provided them with a roof over their head so that they can go to school, study, and graduate. So those dormitories for a long time, now we're looking at different things to do, but that's what they served. So they were being built at that time. We went to many villages where we looked at some of the projects that the Assyrian Aid had done. We wanted to talk to people that were the residents of these villages and ask them about Assyrian Aid, ask what the benefits were. When we came back, we were both more determined than ever to work harder, much harder, to help because of what we saw. It seems, and I think that would be an experience, I think you would agree, anytime you go, and if I urge anybody that's out there listening to this, if you haven't been to the homeland, go and see with your own eyes. You'll come back a changed person.
Is there a memory that sticks out from either the 2000 trip or the 2013 trip?
Everything. I think every day was just something new. For me, just being there and going to schools, the two things, like I was saying, that stick with me is, more than anything, is the reaction of Narsai in 2001 when we went to Assyrian schools with the kids, and the reaction of my father when we went to these Assyrian schools. We walked into a school, I cannot remember the name, in Duhok, and it was interesting. He and I walked in, and there were no kids playing in the playground.
I think it's Ishtar, maybe? No?
Can't remember.
Not
It's
CB?
possibly. No, not a CB,
Okay.
but it was little kids. It was a primary school. We were met by the principal, and she talked to us, and eerily quiet. As we walked into the school, the building, there were all these little kids. And like first grade were standing first row, second grade, third grade, in a row. And they had signs and balloons, and they started to sing to us. My dad just broke down and cried. Thinking about it, I'm getting emotional. But it was something that stuck with me. I mean, he cried like a child.
Ashur, aside from your humanitarian work, what does your professional 9-to-5 look like?
First of all, it's not 9 to 5. I wish it was. I do mostly right now for our company, which is one of the largest engineering companies in the world. I mostly do business development. I deal mostly because of my background, I deal mostly with developers and major developments, the private sector. Really what I do, it's even though I studied mechanical engineering, it's mostly, I don't do much of an engineering, it's mostly management.
Sure.
Yeah.
What has been your proudest accomplishment or achievement to date?
I think working probably for 3 mayors, being appointed by 3 mayors to work on the largest developments in San Francisco. So, I was initially appointed by then San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown to run the $6 billion development at Mission Bay. And then when he left office, then mayor and current California governor, Gavin Newsom, appointed me to manage the Hunters Point Shipyard Candlestick Point. So I was doing both of those together. And then I left the city and went to the private sector for over 8 years. At that time, Mayor Ed Lee asked me to come back and help him with the developments. I was his point person on all the major developments in San Francisco. And unfortunately, Mayor Lee, while in office, had a massive heart attack and died. So after his death, I left the city and came back to the private sector. So I would say, working for the three mayors has been probably very rewarding.
What do you attribute your professional success to? Because I think someone who's been appointed by 3 San Francisco mayors is quite successful in my books. But what do you attribute your success to?
I tell everybody I'm Assyrian. That's why. Seriously, I tell everybody, hey, why are you surprised? All Assyrians are like that. Tell them that even in the Middle East and Iraq, where, it's inherent in us to succeed and do well. And I enjoy what I do. I really do. I mean, I love going to work. I have a lot of fun doing what I do. And to me, it's not a job. I mean, I get paid for liking what I do, you know? I was like, sometimes I tell my wife, I tell Stephanie that, I'll do this for free even if they didn't pay me. That's how much I really enjoy it. So I think it's if you find that, the drive, I wake up in the morning not thinking that I'm going to work, but I'm going to go have fun. That's what it is.
How do you find balance in your life?
I have my family. Before I injured my back when I was playing soccer, I had my soccer buddies. I have my friends, non-Assyrians, that are out there. I learned a long time ago just to kind of divide my time. And it's just a natural course for me. Now,
today is Sunday, February 16th. Yesterday on the Assyrian Podcast Instagram, which I'm not sure if you have Instagram, but if you don't, Ashur, you should get it. We did crowdsourcing for a few questions. And so a few folks wrote in and have some questions that are specific to you.
If they're hard, I want to know their names.
We'll disclose that offline. So the first question that came through, how do you think Assyrian organizations can improve to increase awareness of Assyrians?
With social media, I think it's much easier for us to be able to reach a wider network of people. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping that for the Assyrian Aid, I'd like for us to be a lot more visible to not only Assyrians, but non-Assyrians. And I've tried to do that actually, and again, I can't speak for others, but I speak for Assyrian Aid. As you well know, for like Narsai states of the Mediterranean, we bring in a lot of, there are people that are non-Assyrians that come and actually sponsor tables at this event. What the Central Valley chapter has done as well with this, with the craft feed, Clause for Cause, there are a lot of non-Assyrians that come there. And when you stand there and talk about Assyrians, then that's something that Assyrians, we can expand our footprint, if you will, in the non-Assyrian community. So
I think another event is the shirt that you're wearing right now, the Mesopotamian night.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing. And I think the Mesopotamian night, I think we need also to try to attract more non-Assyrians, and especially politicians.
Because, this event in particular, Mesopotamian night, is hosted in the Bay Area generally, but it's geared towards arts and culture.
Absolutely, and a fantastic events. I don't know if I answered that person's question, but I can only speak for Assyrian Aid, and I would do it.
Yeah. What are the challenges you have faced during your tenure with the Assyrian Aid Society?
Fulfilling our obligations, our monthly obligations, and other obligations as they come up has been a challenge, always a challenge. Assyrian Aid unlike some other organizations, we don't have a lot of money to lean back on. So what we get, basically, we sent over to Assyrian Aid of Iraq. And there are people need to understand too, when we get a lot of an organization such as an ICRC or AUA Foundation give us funding, a lot of time that funding is designated for schools for a certain project.
It's earmarked.
Earmarked for that. So when we get that money, we send it for that project. We really don't have a whole lot of funding sitting as an organization. It comes down to money. That's our biggest, that's kept me awake at nights. Actually, there were times. And Sargon Shabbos, who is our treasurer, and we constantly would talk. And again, he would call me sometimes, say, hey, we have this need. We don't have the money. I would say, look, let's go into all the accounts for all the chapters. Let's rate them, see what we can do, get as much money as we can to send. So I spent, what kept me awake at night is not having the money to fulfill our obligations. Yeah.
You mentioned chapters. So how many chapters does the Assyrian Aid Society have?
So we have chapters throughout. We have obviously a chapter. We don't have a chapter in the Bay Area. The headquarters are here. But we have a chapter in San Jose. We have a chapter in Central Valley. We have a chapter in LA. And we have a chapter in Detroit and in Arizona and one in Chicago. Yeah.
And the chapter's mission is to essentially raise funds for the national organization?
Yes. Okay. So they have their own events, and they raise funds, and those funds are sent to the national office, and the national office then appropriates the necessary funds for the different projects.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go back to some of the followers' questions. What is your motivation to keep fighting for the Assyrian cause?
God, if I don't, who will? I mean, seriously, I'm an Assyrian. That's in my DNA. I mean, yeah. If not me, who?
If you could invite 4 guests, dead or alive, for dinner, who would you choose?
Oh my Lord. Assyrian or non-Assyrian, anybody?
Anyone. Your call.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Pele, Joe Montana.
Okay, 2 more.
I don't want to upset anybody here. I would love to be with actually my uncle, my late Uncle Sargon. I would love to have him sit at the dinner at that table. Probably another person I would really just enjoy sitting and listening probably would be Einstein. Probably most of what he would say would be over my head, but just to be in his presence would be just awesome. And there are a lot of people I would love to, but if there was one person, I think I would love to have my late uncle Sargon Polis.
I want you to talk about him. I know before we started this interview, we were talking about your uncle and some of his paintings and his poetry. But for someone out there, for people out there who don't know who Sargon Polis is, I want you to introduce him.
Yeah, so Sargon Polis, my uncle Khaloui, was born in Habaniya, Iraq. Came to Baghdad, where he at an early age he was writing for a magazine under a pseudonym. He was 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he had to go by a pseudonym because he was so young. He was selling his poetry at that early stage in his life. And then he lived in Baghdad and then moved to Lebanon, to Beirut, lived there for a few years, and then migrated to the United States, where he settled in San Francisco. He was, again, he passed on a few years ago while he was in Germany on a tour, actually, of a few European countries where he was doing talks. And he was my uncle. I enjoyed being with him. He was a lot of fun. We were talking about how my wife, Stephanie, who's Greek-American, and how her mother, my mother-in-law, was talking to my mother-in-law in Sacramento, talking to her sister in Athens. And her sister said, hey, they're talking about this Christian Iraqi poet that just passed away. And my mother-in-law said, what's his name? And she said, his name is Sargon Polis. And she said, well, that's Ashur's uncle. So to me, he was larger than life, only because when you talk to him, you just saw some regular guy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have known anything about this guy. He's one of the best poets in the Middle East. When I was in Iraq, actually, the first time in 2000, some people found out that he was my uncle. I think I was telling you, they were like, so you actually talked to him? I was like, yes, he's my uncle. He's, yeah, he comes over. We sit down and have tea and chat. They just, and again, I say that because he was so down to earth. He just, you wouldn't even know that he was at the stage in life where he was. And he died when the doctor said that he shouldn't be doing what he was doing, which was very strenuous on him. He had heart problems. But I'd like to think that he died doing what he loved doing. Yeah, I do miss him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Ashur, if there's one thing that you'd like to leave the listeners with, what would that be?
Our people, the Assyrian people in the homeland, really need your help, really need your support. And I urge all of you, just don't say, well, Peter is helping, why should I help? Assyrian Aid is helping, they don't need any help. Trust me, what we're doing here and what we're giving to them is just a drop in the bucket. The needs are so great. If we lose our, I'm sitting here, it's easy for me to say in America, but really if we lose our roots, they are the people that are holding us, keeping us there. They are our roots, and if we lose that root, we're lost. And it would be a shame for a great peoples with our history, for people to be talking about us in 100 years from now, 200 years from now, that there was this great civilization and they don't exist anymore. And that's why, really, Assyrians in Iraq, Syria, Iran, other places in the Middle East need your help.
Ashur, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Peter. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. Real quick, I have a favor to ask before we close out. We appreciate all of the feedback we've received on the podcast thus far. If you could take a minute after this to rate and review us wherever you listen to us, we'd greatly appreciate it. We love reading what you have to say. Thanks again, and see you next week.